Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Steve from Legendary Garage Sale Finds. I know it's been over 2 months since my last video. Unfortunately, life has been lifing, but going into this holiday season, things are on the up and I'm quite thankful for that. And even though I haven't been making videos, I've still gone out there looking for all the great pop culture, nostalgic memorabilia that I love hunting for. Vintage toys, comics, and video games. Now, this is the next small example. Here I have a PlayStation 4 I picked up as is with no controllers, no cables, no games. But the lady who pointed out to me, because I actually walked by it, said I could have it for $10. So I figured I took a chance on it, cleaned it up, and luckily I had a PlayStation 4 controller I picked up at another garage sale, and I had a stack of PS4 games which I haven't been able to play, and this thing worked just fine. So for 10 bucks, I'm happy to finally have a PlayStation 4. And I think it was just this morning I was joking about hopefully I'll come across a PS5 for anywhere up to $20 to $30. So I'll keep a lookout for that. Now, next up, I wanted to talk about these really great finds I had at an estate sale I went to in, I want to say late September. It's been a good while, and this house was quite the time capsule. I believe the stuff in there hadn't been touched since the late 80s, which was right about my time, and everything in there just brought back a wave of nostalgia, including these items I want to show you right here. Now, I just missed the He-Man Masters of the Universe craze in the early 80s, and by the time I got to see the toys and books and everything, they had already been pretty much worn out, unfortunately. The toys had been broken, all the books had been ripped up and torn. But when I saw this at the estate sale, I immediately picked it up because it was just a wave of nostalgia. So here we have from 1985, a stack of Masters of the Universe storybooks. Now these books, I remember having at least one or two of them, and I hadn't seen a lot of these. I see there are a couple here. I'm going to go through them. But I absolutely loved the covers. These painted covers on here. I can show it here. They look amazing. And I'm going to show a little bit of the inside of one of them. But how the artwork in there kind of reminded me like of a comic book. So I picked them up. As you can see here, it still had the KB Toy Store tag underneath the estate sales tag. And I did pay $5 per book because they are, as you can tell, in amazing condition. I've never come across these books in such a good condition. Generally, there are bent up, drawn in, pages torn out, and I just grabbed all of them. But I wanted to send out special recognition to Earl, I'm pronouncing this in Norum, who did the covers. I want to go through all of them right here. Now, this is the one I had growing up. That was cool. Just amazing covers. Another one I remember have growing up. I don't know why growing up I always thought Skeletor was like dancing. But I believe these books are a great introduction to any small kid who wants to know about classic He-Man. I'm looking forward to sharing this with the new generation. But I got 10 in total, and I think I was only missing 2. I thought I had the whole set, but looking at the back, there are 2 that are missing. Nice dragon cover here. So I wanted to show you all the other great things I picked up at this estate sale, and then I want to go into some nice comic finds. Okay, everybody, continuing with that amazing estate sale, I picked up this Masters of the Universe coin purse, which actually came out the year I was born, 1983. And someone in the house had an amazing taste in music. We have this Tool limited edition box set. Really happy to find. And part of my biggest find is this stack of vintage board games. I just really love the graphics on all these things. Continuing with He-Man, we have this 3D action set. Really nice graphics. And out of all the boxes, this was probably one of the better ones because they had the staining on the back of them, unfortunately. Really cool. This one was really awesome. The G.I. Joe Commando Attack game. And I believe it is all there because this box is pretty heavy. Unfortunately, it's missing the badge, which is probably the most priciest part of the board game. But all that stuff is still in there. Although it has been used, it's still really nice. And this one also has some staining on the sides. Now, not many people remember Centurions, but a very interesting toy line, which I never knew had its own board game. Really nice graphics on the front. I don't think this one's too bad. On the back, no, not too bad. And here we have the, I believe, sought after Hero Quest sets. I believe these two are some expansions. And the main board game here. And luckily, I'm happy to report that's only missing one dice out of everything in there. And last but not least, we have the upside down broadsides and boarding parties. Really interesting board game because it has two huge ships that battle out in this board game, and pretty awesome when I constructed it together. Although I did put it up online, I am tempted to try it out before it sells. So, vintage toy wise, back here we have stuff I picked up at a garage sale. We have this, oh, the alien fell down. X-Files set here. Mulder Scully, a zombie, and the little stasis pod. And here we have a toy line I haven't seen too often, the Dragonheart series, where the movie that was voiced by Sean Connery. I haven't seen these figures in a very long time. And here we had a few Tiger Electronic games that were left over by the time I got there. Really neat. I haven't seen these things in a while. Nickelodeon game. And Flintstone Kids game. Now, out of all these things, surprisingly, the one thing that sold was a book. The novelization of the vampire classic, The Lost Boys, starring Keith Sutherland and Jason Patric in the late 80s. I didn't know the book existed before, and apparently it was considerably rare. And even though my copy was kind of beat up, it still sold for this amount. So that pretty much tripled what I paid for everything at this garage sale, which I think was maybe $20. So I was really happy with that find and these items I picked up at the garage sale. Now, comic book wise, at a random garage sale in New Orleans, I did come across this Amazing Spider-Man 146, which surprisingly was in better condition than the one I already owned. So for $5, I just had to pick it up. And last but not least, rounding out the vintage toys comics, we have the video games. So here we have a stack of N64 I picked up. Tomb Raider, UFC, Tekken 6, the arcade disc, FIFA 12, Cabela's Big Game Hunter, and TNA Impact. So not a bad haul of great memorabilia and looking forward to seeing what other great stuff I pick up in the future sales. But one more thing I want to get to is the bigger stack of comic books. Okay, everybody, so next up, I have 2 stacks of comic books I wanted to share with y'all that I picked up just this past weekend. The first stack I got is when I answered a Facebook Marketplace ad for 10,000 comic books. It turned out to be what remained of this gentleman's comic book store that unfortunately closed in 1999. Now, Mr. Terry and his dad used to own a comic book store outside of New Orleans called Comic Cosmos, and it looked like a really nice store from his pictures that he shared with me, including a newspaper ad. And he was such a great guy, such a great knowledgeable guy about comic books, that I had a great time chatting with him, and we actually had 2 visits. The first time he showed me all his showcase books, his great Uncanny X-Men run, Amazing Spider-Man, and DC books. Basically all the books everybody wants because they're really hot right now. And they're really nice books, but all the Spider-Man that he had I already owned in my Spider-Man run. And I was looking for books to fill my Conan and Swamp Thing, which unfortunately he didn't have. But he did say he had a huge storage at his brother's house. And we worked out a time that I could take a look at that because he said the books that I was probably looking for would be in that storage. So I want to say a week later, we worked out a time where I got to go with Mr. Terry to his brother's place and check out was by far the biggest man cave of comics, cards, and collectibles, you name it, they had it in this amazing storage. It is something I aspire to have to one day. And it took an entire afternoon digging through this amazing comic book warehouse practically. And I come across all the great non-Marvel and DC books that I remember growing up picking out in my comic book store. Because when Mr. Terry shared with me the story about how he unfortunately had to close his store because the industry was changing and the way the business was changing in 1999, it really kind of broke my heart because it reminded me of how all the comic book stores I went to in my childhood met a similar fate. But for this one afternoon, I got to relive that great nostalgia by digging through what was essentially a comic book store in this storage and picking out a lot of the great books that I had a great nostalgia for that I would have got if I had a few more dollars when I was little and at the comic book store. So looking forward to sharing with you that amazing stack. And I wanted to thank Mr. Terry and Mr. Kurt for letting me come by and just kind of marvel at everything there and taking all that in and all the great conversations we had. So thanks again, Mr. Terry, and I look forward to doing more business with you when you find some more books that I'm looking for. And next up, my second stack I got from a guy I've been buying books from for years now. Mr. Donnie had contacted me about 300 or so books that he had come across on his travels, and he, of course, he always gives me first dibs, and he gave me an amazing deal on the books I picked out. And I did have a little bit of footage of that while I was there, and I'm looking forward to show you that stack as well. So let me show you what I picked up. Okay, everybody, so here we have a stack of books I picked up from Mr. Terry. First, we have a series I've been looking for a little while. From Marvel's Epic Comics, we have Cadillacs and Dinosaurs issue 1 and 2. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, a great Miyazaki anime. Now, there wasn't too much Swamp Thing in there I was looking for, but I did come across these. We have Essential Swamp Thing, the New 52, issue 37, annual number 4, a nice Batman cover. And I think this is 128. Nice Swamp Thing here. This one I thought was pretty neat. The Monster Hunters in Marvel Universe War at the Earth's Core. I just like that 1950s look of a retro monster movie. I decided to pick it up. It was really neat. Now, I recently heard about this being a possible spec book of a character hoping to make an appearance in the MCU. So I picked up Sensational She-Hulk #4. Now, I remember Cops as a interesting cartoon from probably like the late 80s. And I'm recently coming across the comic books. I have issue 1, 2, and 3. So I picked up what Mr. Terry had in his boxes. Got issue 4, 5, 7, 8, 12, 14, and the final issue 15. I picked these books up mainly because they struck a nostalgic chord with me. The Cops was a very interesting toy line because I remember it had like cap gun features, which would make the rat-a-tat-tat sound. So I did find some Conan. We have the Adventure #1, and an interesting, see the chromium there. A big thing they did in the 90s. Now, I found a few Conan from the later part of the run that I'm looking for. We have 237. He gave me this rather beat up Daredevil 33 for a couple bucks, so I couldn't say no to that. And 301. Conan the Adventurer, I think this is issue 2. Conan Classic, reprint of the first issue of Conan the Barbarian. Now, I've picked up the few issues of the Bruce Lee series that I've been looking for. I've been missing issue 2 and issue 6, so I do got the whole run now of that series. Now, this is an interesting book I came across, King Kong from Monster Comics. I think this is 2 of 6. I couldn't find any of the other ones, unfortunately, the boxes is looking through, so I'm hoping Mr. Terry comes across them so I can get all these great King Kong, because I am a fan of the giant monsters. Now, I've been looking for the Age of Reptiles for a very long time, but I've been coming across a few issues. Great story, great art by Ricardo Delgado up here. And I highly recommend this series to anybody and any little kid who enjoys dinosaurs, because I love these books growing up. Here, another comic book based on a toy series from the 80s, because that's generally what they were. We have Captain Power and the Soldier of the Future. This is issue 2, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's only like 2 or 3 issues in this whole series. Now here we have some Marvel that I've always been looking for but never come across, but he had it, of course, in his warehouse. We have the first appearance of Onslaught, and I grabbed a few books preceding that, because I remember this storyline when it happened, and in my friend's comics he would share with me, but I never owned it myself, so I like picking it up. Because looking back on it, I really enjoyed the story. And we're at 56. And here we have Street Fighter 2, issue 3. I think this is out of 8. I think I have 1 and 2. So I'm slowly getting them all together. Now, I love the Marvel Monsters, and I hadn't really come across these particular Strange Tales. I just really liked the cover, so I decided to pick them up. Here we have Man-Thing, #2, 3, and a werewolf and Man-Thing. I really like the cover, so I decided to pick it up. So I'm on the active search for this series now. I think there were maybe 5 in this series, but I'll take a look out for them. Of course, I had to pick up anything Godzilla that I found. Didn't see any other series, but this is issue 6, and he had 3 of them, so I picked them all up because they were in really great shape, and I loved Dark Horse Godzilla. Nice. Now here are the Aliens series that I started getting in the early 90s but didn't get the whole series. Here we have Aliens Rogue issue 2 and 3. I just love these books. I think Dark Horse did really good with these franchises. I know Marvel has them now, and they're pretty good, but nothing takes me back like these Dark Horse ones. And I picked up Predator Race War, the whole series, 1 through 4. I remember having like a trading card that had these covers on it. 3 and 4. And I found Conan issue 0 from the Dark Horse run. Aliens vs. Predator Duel, issue 2. Predator Hell or Hot Water. And Predator Dark River. I think there's one more back here. Predator Kindred. I hadn't heard of this series, but I like this cover. So I'm going to be actively looking out for these books. So all this stack here, I believe Mr. Terry gave me a great deal and only wanted like $115 for this stack. I figured that was too good of a deal, so I rounded up and I gave him $140 because I really appreciate the time he gave to let me look through all his warehouse and these great pickups, which I really enjoy. Last but not least, we have the books I picked up from my buddy Donnie. He had a lot of interesting Predator and Batman books. He had this particular cover set of Batman vs. Predator 1, 2, and 3. A very different art style than this next one I'm going to show you, which is the same thing, but just different covers. Oh, here we have the collected edition, which I already own, but I just decided to pick it up because it's in really good shape. But I'll probably end up selling this one. But here we have that same story again, but different covers. You gotta let me know in the comments which ones you like best. I couldn't pick between them. I think they're both really good. But the 1, 2, and 3 again. A really great story. I highly recommend if you haven't read it. One of the greatest stories, or crossovers, I'd say. I think it even rivals the Aliens vs. Predator. And really close to my second favorite crossover, RoboCop vs. Terminator. And another crossover, which I think I already have, but I decided to pick it up again. Batman and Dracula, Red Rain. And he had this DC versus Marvel, issue 4, which I didn't believe I had. Some DC Aliens, Music of the Spears. And we got some Batman, Legends of the Dark Knight, number 50. And last but not least, we have this amazing Bane book, which pretty good. I believe it might be the first appearance of Bane. Unfortunately, it has a little dent, which you can kind of see right here in the plastic, but it's also in the book as well. I believe a pressing might get it out, but it still presents pretty well. I'll bring it up here. And my friend Donnie also threw in a amazing Spider-Man poster. And when he told me the price he wanted for these books, I told him I'd give him more. He only wanted $20 for this stack, but I definitely gave him more than that. So thanks again to Terry and Donnie. And thank you all for viewing the video. If you like to comment on anything you see here, by all means, I like chatting with people who watch my video. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and like and subscribe. But until next time, thanks for watching.